The young girl from the streets stumbled upon a critical set of documents belonging to a wealthy millionaire, and her request in return for their safe return left the millionaire utterly shocked and emotionally overwhelmed. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell to avoid missing any videos. Daniela, navigating through the bustling, sun-soaked streets of a major American city, clutched the precious envelope close to her heart, feeling both the blistering heat and the weight of her desperate hopes. At just 20 years old, Daniela had endured a life fraught with adversity and relentless struggle on the unforgiving streets. Yet today held the promise of transformation. She had stumbled upon something that had the power to radically alter her fate. As Daniela neared the grandiose mansion of Mr. Arturo, her pulse quickened with a mix of hope and trepidation. She paused before the massive door, summoning every ounce of her resolve as she rang the ornate bell, each chime echoing her anticipation. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a formidable woman whose stern demeanor conveyed an unspoken disapproval. The housekeeper's scrutinizing gaze was laden with contempt as she assessed Daniela. "What is it that you want?" The housekeeper's voice cut through the air with an icy tone, signaling her disdain for Daniela's presence. Despite the chill in the housekeeper's voice, Daniela stood her ground, her determination unwavering. "I need to speak with Mr. Arturo. I have crucial documents that belong to him." The housekeeper responded with a scornful chuckle, her head shaking in disbelief. "Mr. Arturo doesn't entertain beggars. If you need money, you should find yourself a job," she said dismissively, beginning to shut the door. With swift desperation, Daniela wedged her foot in the door's path, her voice trembling with urgency. "I refuse to leave until these documents are handed over. They are of utmost importance," she insisted, her determination palpable. For a moment, the housekeeper faltered, her irritation momentarily overshadowed by a hint of doubt. There was something in Daniela's unwavering resolve that made her reconsider her initial reaction. With a begrudging sigh and an expression of reluctant acquiescence, the housekeeper left the door slightly ajar and retreated into the house, her disdainful presence fading down the hallway. Daniela waited with bated breath, her heart pounding fiercely as she fought to keep her anxiety at bay. Moments later, a tall, impeccably dressed man emerged, Arturo himself, clearly vexed by the interruption. His expression was a complex mix of irritation and disdain as he scrutinized Daniela with narrowed eyes. "What is the meaning of this intrusion?" Arturo demanded, his voice edged with impatience. Daniela extended the envelope towards him, her hands shaking slightly. "I have found your documents," she said, her voice steady despite the palpable tension. Arturo regarded her with a skeptical frown before accepting the envelope. As he unfolded it and skimmed through its contents, his expression shifted from disbelief to shock as he recognized the significance of the documents. "Where on earth did you find these?" he inquired, his voice tinged with a mix of suspicion and awe. "That's irrelevant now," Daniela said, striving to keep her composure under Arturo's piercing gaze. "What's important is that I've come here to return these to you." Arturo's eyes narrowed, a clear sign that he remained unconvinced. "Documents in the hands of a beggar like you? That's absurd. You're lying. If you need money, get a job." "I don't have time for this nonsense," he said, his hand already moving to close the door once more. "I'm not leaving until you have these documents," Daniela asserted with unwavering resolve. "They are critical, and you need to see them." Arturo's hand hesitated on the door. He scrutinized Daniela for a long moment, her steadfast gaze and earnest tone making him reconsider his initial dismissal. With a resigned sigh, Daniela pulled a few documents from the envelope, and Arturo's skepticism began to wane as he saw the authenticity of her claim. "Very well," he conceded, finally opening the door wider. "Come inside. We need to discuss this further." Daniela stepped into the mansion, feeling profoundly out of place amidst the grandeur and opulence that starkly contrasted her daily struggles. The hallways, adorned with priceless art and extravagant furnishings, created a dizzying disparity from the reality she knew. Arturo guided her into a tastefully decorated living room and gestured toward a luxurious sofa. "Please take a seat," he instructed with lingering mistrust. "Now, explain precisely how you came by these documents and why you are here." Daniela inhaled deeply, her mind racing as she sought to convey her story clearly and honestly. This was a pivotal moment, and she knew she needed to be convincing. "As I was walking down the street," she began, "I stumbled upon these documents discarded in a pile of trash. When I saw your name and address, I recognized their significance and felt compelled to return them directly to you. I knew how important they must be and wanted to make sure they reached you safely." She recounted, her voice earnest and filled with urgency. Arturo listened in silence, processing her explanation. Though he remained cautious, the genuine sincerity in Daniela's eyes began to chip away at his skepticism. He knew the documents were crucial, and the desperation in her voice urged him to reconsider his initial doubts. "Very well," Arturo finally said, his skepticism still evident. "I'll need to verify these documents, but you must understand that trust isn't given freely to those who appear out of nowhere. I will need to investigate this matter thoroughly." Daniela nodded, acknowledging his reluctance with a quiet understanding. "Thank you," she said earnestly. "I just wanted to do the right thing." Arturo scrutinized her for a few moments longer, his stern demeanor softening ever so slightly. "Let's see what we have here," he said, though his tone remained cautious. As Arturo examined the documents with meticulous care, his expression shifted from one of skepticism to relief and astonishment. The documents were indeed as critical as Daniela had claimed, and he realized how crucial it was to have them back. After several moments of intense scrutiny, he stood up, glancing at Daniela, who was perched anxiously on the elegant sofa, her eyes fixed on him. "These documents are indeed mine," Arturo acknowledged, his voice now carrying a note of respect. "You did well to bring them to me." Daniela's eyes sparkled with a mix of relief and nervousness. "I knew they were important," she replied, her voice filled with quiet pride. Arturo placed the documents aside and walked over to a nearby table, retrieving his wallet and starting to write a check. "How much should I compensate you for retrieving and delivering these documents?" he inquired, his pen poised above the check. Daniela's expression turned resolute as she shook her head vigorously. "I don't want money," she said firmly. "That's not why I came here." Arturo paused, his pen hovering in midair, and looked at her with confusion. "Then what is it that you want?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. Daniela took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to ask was unconventional and filled with personal risk. "I want you to treat me like a daughter for a week," she said, her voice steady yet tinged with a palpable vulnerability. Arturo stood motionless, her unexpected request reverberating in the room. He slowly lowered his pen, turning fully towards her, his eyes wide with astonishment. What he asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and bewilderment. Daniela's eyes filled with a mix of hope and desperation as she explained, "I've never experienced what it's like to have a real family. I want to understand what it means to have a father, even if it's just for a week." Her words carried a deep sincerity, revealing a longing for connection and belonging that she had never known. Arturo took a deep breath, his mind grappling with the unusual nature of Daniela's request. He had anticipated her asking for financial compensation or some material reward, but her plea was something entirely different. Her raw vulnerability stirred something within him, a dormant empathy he hadn't felt in years. Having lost his father during his childhood, Arturo understood the deep void that the absence of a father could leave. "You're asking me to treat you as if you were my daughter for an entire week," he echoed, struggling to fully grasp the gravity of her request. "Yes," Daniela confirmed, her gaze unwavering. "That's all I'm asking for. I don't want money or anything material. I simply want to experience what it's like to have a father, even if it's just for a short time," she explained, her voice steady but laden with longing. Arturo remained silent, his mind churning over her request. The notion seemed almost absurd, yet there was something profoundly human and touching in her plea. He had never considered having children, especially after the loss of his father. But now here was Daniela, asking for something so simple yet so deeply meaningful. After a moment of contemplation, Arturo finally spoke. "Very well. I accept your request for a week. I will treat you as my daughter." A wave of relief and emotion washed over Daniela. She could hardly believe that he had agreed. "Thank you, Mr. Arturo. This means more to me than I can express," she said, her gratitude palpable in every word. Arturo smiled faintly. "Just Arturo is fine. We'll begin tomorrow. You can stay here in the mansion for the week. I'll arrange a room for you." "Thank you, Arturo," Daniela said, her smile the first genuine one she had shown since arriving. Arturo stood and rang the bell, summoning the housekeeper. She appeared, her expression still stern, but now tinged with curiosity. "Prepare a room for Daniela. She will be staying with us for the week," Arturo instructed. The housekeeper raised an eyebrow in surprise, but said nothing as she acknowledged the order. As Daniela followed the housekeeper down the opulent hallway, she felt a mix of relief and nervous anticipation about the week ahead. Arturo watched them disappear down the corridor, his mind still turning over the unexpected turn of events. At that moment, his wife Lorena arrived home, arms laden with shopping bags from her afternoon outings. Accustomed to luxury and routine, she was surprised to find Arturo in the living room, seated with a serious expression that signaled something was amiss. "Arturo, what's going on?" Lorena asked, setting the bags down and walking over to him. Arturo looked up at her, taking a deep breath before responding. "We need to talk, Lorena. Something unexpected happened today," he said, gesturing for her to sit beside him. The gravity in his tone made it clear that whatever had transpired was significant, and Lorena's curiosity was piqued as she settled into the conversation. Lorena felt a chill run down her spine as she sat down, her gaze locked on her husband with a mix of apprehension and disbelief. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. "A young woman named Daniela came to the house today," Arturo began, his eyes searching Lorena's for understanding. "She found some important documents I had lost. Instead of asking for money or any material reward, she made a rather unusual request." "What kind of request?" Lorena asked, her tone laced with suspicion and concern. Arturo took a deep breath, preparing himself for her reaction. "She asked to be treated as our daughter for a week," he revealed, waiting for Lorena's response. Lorena's eyes widened in shock, her discomfort palpable. "What? And you agreed to that?" she exclaimed, her voice incredulous. Arturo nodded, his expression earnest. "Yes, I agreed. I realize it's unconventional, but there was something in her request that touched me deeply. She's seeking something I can give." Lorena stared at him, her mind wrestling with the decision. "But why would you agree to such a thing? What if she's trying to manipulate you?" Her concern was evident in every word. Arturo shook his head, trying to convey his sincerity. "I don't believe that's her intention. I've been in her position before. She's simply looking for a bit of love and acceptance." Lorena sighed heavily, her worry evident. "I just hope this doesn't lead to more complications. We don't know anything about her." Arturo nodded, acknowledging the validity of her concerns. "We'll have to be cautious, but I genuinely believe this is the right course of action. Let's hope it turns out well." Reluctantly, Lorena accepted the situation, her support a compromise to her husband's heartfelt decision. "Very well. I'll prepare the guest room and ensure everything is ready for her arrival tomorrow." The following morning, Daniela awoke in a spacious, elegantly furnished room, her heart fluttering with a blend of excitement and trepidation. The opulence of her surroundings was a stark contrast to the life she had known, and she couldn't help but marvel at the luxurious setting. Arturo arrived at her door with a warm and welcoming smile, gently knocking before stepping inside. "Good morning, Daniela," he greeted, his voice friendly and sincere. "How did you sleep?" His tone was reassuring, a reflection of the new chapter that Daniela was about to experience. "Good morning, Arturo. I slept very well. Thank you," Daniela said, her smile radiating genuine gratitude. "I'm pleased to hear that," Arturo responded warmly. "Today, I'd like us to spend some time getting to know each other better. How about we have breakfast together?" He led Daniela to the elegantly adorned dining room, where a lavish breakfast awaited them. As they settled at the grand table, a maid gracefully served an array of delectable dishes. Over breakfast, Arturo and Daniela engaged in a heartfelt conversation. Daniela spoke candidly about her life on the streets, sharing the hardships and struggles she had faced with unfiltered honesty. Arturo, in turn, opened up about his childhood and the profound loss of his father, his voice tinged with nostalgia and melancholy. As the days unfolded, a genuine connection began to form between Arturo and Daniela. He took her on a tour of the city, showing her his favorite hidden gems and introducing her to friends and acquaintances from his social circle. Daniela embraced the new experiences with enthusiasm, her gratitude evident in her bright eyes. Arturo, moved by Daniela's resilience and sincerity, found himself deeply touched by the bond they were developing. Initially skeptical, Lorena gradually warmed to Daniela. She started to see beyond her apprehensions and recognized the young woman's genuine need for compassion and support. By the end of the week, Lorena's reservations had softened, and she joined in the growing appreciation for Daniela's presence. On their final day together, Arturo and Daniela strolled through a serene park, reflecting on the week that had passed. The peaceful surroundings mirrored the emotional depth of their time together. Daniela turned to Arturo, her voice quivering with emotion. "Thank you for this week, Arturo. It has meant more to me than I can express." Arturo smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of his feelings. "Thank you for not only bringing those documents, but also for reminding me of the profound importance of family. You've taught me a great deal in these days we've shared," he replied, his tone sincere. As Daniela prepared to depart, Arturo handed her a small, elegantly wrapped box. Inside was a delicate necklace. "This is a token of our time together," he said softly. "I hope it serves as a reminder of the kindness and love that truly exists in the world." Daniela accepted the gift with tearful eyes, the necklace symbolizing a meaningful chapter in her life, marked by unexpected compassion and connection. Daniela felt a wave of deep emotion as she clasped the delicate necklace in her hand. "Thank you, Arturo. I will treasure this week and the kindness you've shown me forever," she said, her voice trembling with heartfelt gratitude. Arturo watched Daniela as she walked away, a profound sense of fulfillment washing over him. He was acutely aware that their meeting had profoundly impacted both their lives in ways neither of them had anticipated. However, just as he was beginning to savor the moment, Daniela approached him with a concerned look. "Arturo, I don't know how to put this, but something seems off," she said, her voice laced with unease. Arturo's brow furrowed as he passed a hand over his face, grappling with the seriousness of the situation. "This is a serious matter, Daniela. We need to address it right now. I have to speak with Lorena about this," he said, his tone resolute. He and Daniela made their way to the living room, where Lorena was engrossed in watching television. Arturo's demeanor was grim as he approached her. "Lorena, we need to talk immediately," he said, his voice carrying an edge of urgency. Lorena looked up, her expression shifting from curiosity to irritation. "What's the matter, Arturo? Why the serious face?" she asked, clearly put off by the abruptness of the situation. "Daniela mentioned she saw you discarding trash into a container on the street late last night." "I need an explanation for what you were doing there," Arturo stated, crossing his arms and fixing her with a steely gaze. For a moment, Lorena's face went pale, but she quickly masked her surprise with a veneer of indignation. "That's absurd, Arturo. Are you going to take the word of a beggar over mine?" she retorted, attempting to mask her discomfort with feigned outrage. "It's not about belief I'm asking for an explanation," Arturo insisted, his tone unwavering. "I didn't throw any garbage." "This whole thing is ridiculous," Lorena replied, her voice betraying a hint of nervousness. Arturo noticed Lorena's growing agitation, which only fueled his suspicions. "Lorena, please be honest with me. If there's something you need to tell me, we can deal with it together. But I need to know the truth," he urged, trying to keep his composure. "I've already told you. I didn't do anything," Lorena exclaimed, rising from the couch, her frustration palpable. "Whether you help me or not, I'm going to uncover the truth." "I hope you're being truthful with me," Arturo said firmly before turning and leaving the room, his mind racing with unanswered questions. Lorena's contemptuous words left a palpable tension in the room. "Daniela, don't get involved where it doesn't concern you. You're not even family. You're just an intruder who causes problems," Lorena spat, her voice dripping with disdain. Daniela tried to stay composed despite the hostility. "I'm not trying to cause problems, Lorena. I just want a chance to have a family, even if it's just for a short time," she said earnestly. Lorena advanced towards Daniela, her expression fierce. "Family? Do you think you can just waltz in here and steal my husband?" she accused, her voice rising. Arturo, stunned by Lorena's harsh words, quickly intervened. "Lorena, this is ridiculous. Daniela isn't trying to take anything from anyone. She simply wants to experience what it feels like to have a family," he said firmly, trying to defuse the situation. "Oh, of course. And I'm supposed to believe that a beggar with a sob story is just here for a family experience," Lorena shouted, pointing accusingly at Daniela. "Enough, Lorena. This argument is pointless. It's late. We'll talk about this more calmly tomorrow," Arturo declared, gesturing for everyone to disperse. Feeling humiliated, Daniela retreated to her room, while Lorena's muttered insults echoed down the staircase. Arturo watched the scene unfold with an uneasy feeling. Lorena's defensive and angry reaction was troubling and raised suspicions in his mind. That night, Arturo lay awake, his thoughts racing. Lorena's erratic behavior and the ongoing tension made him uneasy. He couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to the situation than met the eye. The thought of Leandro, Daniela's friend, and the possibility of Lorena's involvement in something unsavory kept him awake. "I need to get to the bottom of this. Tomorrow, I'll hire a detective," Arturo resolved silently, his mind set on uncovering the truth. The next morning, the atmosphere in the mansion was tense. Arturo descended to breakfast with a determined resolve. He sought out his trusted assistant, Javier, for a private conversation. "Javier, I need you to find a reliable detective, someone discreet and thorough," Arturo instructed in a low, serious tone. Javier nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Of course, Arturo. I'll get on it immediately," he replied. Arturo felt a glimmer of hope that the truth would soon be uncovered. As he awaited Javier's findings, he remained vigilant, knowing that the coming days would be crucial in unraveling the mystery and addressing the underlying issues within his home. "Understood, sir. I'll start with the security camera footage and see if I can confirm any details about the incident," Detective Belmonte said, jotting down the information. Arturo nodded, feeling a sense of urgency. "I appreciate your discretion. Lorena's behavior has been troubling, and I need to get to the bottom of this before it escalates further." As the detective left to begin his investigation, Arturo returned to his thoughts, trying to manage his growing concern. Meanwhile, Daniela continued to navigate the mansion, doing her best to stay out of Lorena's way. The tension was palpable, and Daniela felt like an outsider in a house filled with underlying conflict. Lorena, aware of the growing scrutiny, decided to act quickly. She knew that if Arturo's investigation uncovered something damning, it could spell trouble for her. She began to plot how to divert attention away from herself and potentially drive Daniela out before any real evidence came to light. As night fell, Detective Belmonte started his work, reviewing the security footage from the street where the incident was reported. He carefully analyzed each frame, searching for any signs that matched the description given by Daniela's acquaintance. Hours later, the detective's findings were clear. The footage showed a woman fitting Lorena's description disposing of items in a garbage container. While the footage did not capture the exact contents of what was thrown away, it was enough to raise suspicion. The next morning, Arturo received a call from Detective Belmonte. "Sir, I have some findings regarding the incident. The footage does show a woman resembling your wife disposing of items in the garbage container on the reported date. However, the footage doesn't reveal what exactly was thrown away. I recommend proceeding with caution and perhaps having a direct conversation with Mrs. Lorena." Arturo listened carefully, his concern growing. "Thank you, Detective. I'll need to speak with Lorena immediately. Please continue your investigation and keep me updated." Arturo hung up, feeling the weight of the situation. He knew he needed to confront Lorena, but he was unsure how to handle the conversation without escalating the situation further. With a deep breath, he prepared to address the issue head-on, hoping to uncover the truth and resolve the mounting tensions in the household. Detective Belmont took a deep breath, his expression serious. "Sir, I have reviewed the footage thoroughly. The recordings confirm that a woman resembling Mrs. Lorena was seen disposing of items in the garbage container. Although the footage doesn't show the exact contents, it's clear that she was there." Arturo's face grew pale as he absorbed the implications of the detective's report. "Do you have any other information or leads?" he asked, trying to maintain his composure. Ricardo nodded. "Yes, I also spoke to a few local witnesses who reported seeing a woman matching Mrs. Lorena's description acting suspiciously in the area. I can't confirm what was thrown away, but the pattern and timing align with the information provided." Arturo ran a hand through his hair, feeling a mix of frustration and concern. "I need to confront Lorena with this evidence. How should I proceed?" "I suggest approaching her calmly and giving her a chance to explain," Ricardo advised. "It's important to remain composed and ensure that any confrontation is done respectfully to avoid escalating the situation." Arturo nodded, his mind racing. "Thank you, Detective. I'll take your advice and speak with her." As Ricardo left the office, Arturo prepared himself for the difficult conversation ahead. He knew that confronting Lorena with this evidence could lead to significant consequences, but he felt that he had no choice if he wanted to uncover the truth. When Arturo finally approached Lorena, she was in the living room, reading a book. He stood in the doorway, his face stern but composed. "Lorena, we need to talk. Please sit down." Lorena looked up, sensing the seriousness in his tone. She reluctantly set her book aside and sat on the couch, her expression guarded. "What's this about?" she asked. Arturo took a deep breath, holding up a folder with the evidence from the detective. "I've received some concerning information about you. The security footage shows someone who looks like you disposing of items in a garbage container on a street." Lorena's eyes widened, and she tried to mask her anxiety. "Arturo, I don't know what you're talking about. This is absurd." "I need to know the truth, Lorena. I've seen the evidence, and I need you to explain what happened," Arturo said firmly but with a hint of compassion. Lorena's facade began to crack as she struggled to come up with an explanation. I don't know what to say. I may have been in that area, but it was just a misunderstanding. I didn't do anything wrong, she stammered. Arturo's patience was wearing thin. Lorena, if you have been involved in something, I need you to be honest with me. This is about trust and our future together. The room fell silent as Lorena grappled with the weight of Arturo's words. The tension was palpable as Arturo waited for her to respond, hoping for the truth to emerge and seeking a path forward amidst the growing uncertainty. Lorena's face turned pale as she glanced at the photos and screenshots. The images clearly showed a woman matching her description in the act of discarding a bag of garbage in a container. She swallowed hard, trying to maintain her composure. Arturo, Lorena began, but Arturo cut her off with a raised hand. I need you to explain what I'm seeing here. Why were you on that street, and what was in that bag? Arturo's voice was firm but betrayed a deep sadness. Lorena took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. Arturo, I didn't mean for any of this to come out like this. It was a moment of desperation. I had some things I needed to get rid of, things that I didn't want anyone to see, she admitted, her voice cracking. What things? Arturo pressed, his patience wearing thin. Lorena hesitated, looking down at her lap. They were documents related to some personal matters. I thought it was better to dispose of them quietly. I never intended for this to get out of hand. Personal matters? Lorena, you have to understand that this looks very suspicious, Arturo said, struggling to keep his emotions in check. You've jeopardized everything, including our trust. I know how it looks, but it wasn't meant to harm anyone, Lorena pleaded. I was just trying to protect myself from a situation that I couldn't control. Arturo shook his head, feeling the weight of the betrayal. Lorena, you should have been honest with me. Now, this breach of trust has put everything in question. Lorena's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Arturo. I never wanted to hurt you or cause any problems. I just didn't know how to handle everything. Arturo sighed heavily, struggling with the decision he needed to make. I need some time to think about this. I don't know what the future holds for us now, but you need to understand that honesty and trust are the foundation of any relationship. Lorena nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. I'll give you the space you need. As Lorena left the office, Arturo was left alone with the painful reality of his situation. He knew that rebuilding trust would be an uphill battle and that their relationship might never be the same. For now, he needed to focus on finding a way forward and deciding what was best for both of them. Arturo's heart was heavy as he confronted Lorena's betrayal. The gravity of her actions had shaken the foundation of their relationship. He knew that moving forward meant addressing the painful reality of their situation and the impact it would have on both their lives. Lorena. Arturo began, his voice steadier than he felt. I need to think clearly about the next steps. We'll need to discuss the separation process and how to handle the practicalities of this situation. It's not something I take lightly. But it's clear that we've reached a point where continuing is no longer viable. Lorena's gaze was filled with resignation and anger. I understand, Arturo. I've made my mistakes, and now I have to face the consequences, she said, her voice tinged with bitterness. Arturo nodded, knowing that the road ahead would be difficult but necessary. We need to handle this with as much dignity as we can. I want to make sure that everything is resolved fairly and that we both have a chance to move on. With that, Arturo turned to his desk, starting to make the necessary arrangements for their separation. He felt the weight of the decisions he had to make and the emotional toll it would take on both of them. But he also knew that facing the truth and addressing the issues head-on was the only way to move forward. As Lorena left the office, Arturo was left alone with his thoughts, feeling the sting of betrayal, but also the faint glimmer of hope that, despite the pain, he could rebuild his life on a more solid foundation of honesty and trust. The days that followed would be filled with difficult conversations and legal arrangements, but Arturo was resolute in his decision. He was ready to face the challenges ahead, knowing that confronting the truth was the first step toward finding peace and moving on. And there you have it, an intense journey through the unfolding drama of trust, betrayal, and personal growth. From the initial shock of unexpected revelations to the difficult decisions that followed, this story reminds us of the importance of honesty and the impact that our actions can have on those we care about. We'd love to hear from you. What's one key lesson you've learned from this story that you plan to apply in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.